Welcome to another episode of the Fat Cats Rugby Podcast. On a day where we are pondering whether rugby players actually do retire one time. I don't know what my counterparts today have to say, but my name is Ruben Kiumuro. And with me today, usual Fat Cats, moving up the ranks in our conversational table as well, Mr. Cesar Ankunda. And on the other hand, a gentleman that we are having for the first time, but not the last time, surely, Mr. Kabalega Adam. He has served his time as a rugby player, schools league in particular, a captain of the King's College Budo, the great college after Namilyango College. I don't know about the one from Entebbe Road. And he made the big shock of having trained with Pirates from his S3 to his S6. And just when he was about to make that professional debut, he made a decision that very, very few men of his age at the time would make. He decided to go on the journey of starting a club of his own. Well, we are going to find out about that. But gentlemen, welcome. Starting with you, Adam. How are you feeling?
Very much. I'm very good. It's a good week for me. Eagles are the champions of Central League, so I'm doing very well. We are training for the playoffs. There's still a lot of work to do. The job's not done. But from where we have come, this is definitely a good point for the club. Also excited for the league to end, see which team comes out on top. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. We'll definitely come back to that Eagles conversation to just understand what was your thought process when all this happened. But Cesar, you have been particularly, I can't say MIA because usually where I like hanging from, you don't like being there for one reason or the other. But how was your weekend?
My weekend went well. Cubs went back to winning ways. Of course, people were excited about us not getting the bonus point against Buffaloes. A very, very, very good Buffalo side. One of the things I want to talk about today is to make mention about that Buffaloes team. My God, they played really, really good rugby. I'll just mention a few players later on. But of course, we won that game. I was happy because we won that game. And bonus point or not, see, whether we win 1 million bonus points, we have to win the game, all our remaining games to win the league. Yeah. Bonus points have been good to us because we lost 2 games and we are still on top of the league. So, because of bonus points. So I was happy because we won the game, still top of the league. Hopefully this weekend we shall go over in peace and then we enter that final game on top of the league. So the weekend went well for me. The elephant fell off the of the tree, albeit momentarily, but I was happy. United won, Arsenal lost the league position, so I was okay. The weekend was okay. I mean, except for Formula One, where my tractor is still not performing. Yeah, but my weekend went well.
Yeah, that's good. You did not give us anything in particular about your weekend. What were you up to? I mean, right now when you guys are in the break, save from training for the playoffs, what do you be doing with your weekend?
My weekend, sadly, I'm in my last semester of university at MUBS. So we had coursework too this weekend up to Sunday. So from Friday up to Sunday I was in papers, but on Saturday, immediately I had a paper from like 4 to 5, and immediately after I just decided to run to Kings Park and watch the Pirates game. Just after my paper I saw the score was 50-0, and I was like, there's no way I can miss this game. It's probably going to reach 100. But sadly, I only watched one try in the second half and watched more of the Monga's tries.
You came with a bad luck. We're wondering what happened.
What happened?
No, but I think, just generally speaking, Pirates has been a bit suspect to having put the foot off the gas in their second halves. I think it hurt them the most against Hippos, where they were leading 35, I don't know, something like 10 at halftime. And by the time the game ended, they had lost the bonus point. But if they were even given an extra 5 minutes, I believe the momentum was in the favor of
Hippos,
Hippos, and they could have even caused an upset there. But Caesar, you did talk about the Buffaloes. Buffaloes in successive weekends denying the who are the top two at the time, Heathens and Cobs, bonus points. Which ideally, I should say, the biggest benefactor of that was Pirates. Level on points, but for some reason, you guys, the Cobs, know how to stack up the points difference. But before we get into all that, gentlemen, where we started from, how many times is a rugby player supposed to retire for us to believe that he has retired? And is it a case of perhaps our comprehension as the people who are looking at the tweet? Or is it a case of players just not really getting their communication / grammar right? Because the way I looked at it, it looked like, and under normal circumstances, when you are relinquishing your role as captain of a team, you're normally also moving forward.
Your position, yeah.
Yes. And when he was thanking towards that end of that tweet, he said for those that were supporting him in his captaincy and as a player. So for not only ourselves, but for very many media people, everyone thought that this is his, at least for the international career, that was it. And there were so many praises being heaped, so many articles being written, only for, I don't know if it was even 2 days later, him coming out and saying that disregard the fake news. But what fake news? It's you that tweeted. So I don't know. Is the problem with us who are trying to understand the tweet? Or, in your opinion, what do you think about...
I don't know. Okay. Now I don't want to make a fool of myself. I don't remember properly whose tweet I read where it says I'm retiring from the international career. I don't know why I keep remembering it being Michael.
Sports. I think it was an article on Kawo Sports.
On Kawo. Okay.
There was Kawo, there was Nalubale, there was Vision Group.
Maybe the rumors to Michael, because Michael is so many things, but he's a very, what word do I use? He's a level-headed man. I don't think Michael can go around. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think Michael can go around tweeting that he has retired only to change and say disregard the rumors, because it ceases to be a rumor if it's you who has tweeted it. Maybe Michael is the one who tweeted. Maybe you can check. Maybe it's Michael who tweeted about him retiring from international rugby, or I seem to have seen that he was retiring from international rugby and him tweeting it. But if it's not, then we move on. My issue here is to answer your question. When should people retire? I don't know, man. We always have those discussions. Michael has overstayed on the 7th team. Michael misses tackles. Michael does this and that. I think he has. But then when you watch and you interact with those 7th players, every single one of those players is so grateful for the leadership that Michael has on that team. So at first I used to be against Michael's long stay on the 7th team. First of all, I don't like 7s. I really don't like 7s.
Why don't you like 7s?
That's another conversation from another segment. But I later understood, because I don't like it that much, I don't follow it that much, but because they are the national team that is putting us there, we have no choice but to follow them. But when you interact with these players, they help you understand. They help you understand the use of a player on that team, and especially Michael. My biggest issue on that 7th team were 2 players, Michael and Aaron. Now, I always had an issue with Aaron because for some reason, every single tournament, Aaron got a yellow card. And I'm like, guys, at what point are we going to separate this superstardom of a player and him costing the team all the time because he's in sin bins? And then the 7th players that I get a chance to talk to, they explained to me the role of Aaron. Then I I started removing emotion. Sandy, I'll be very happy for using this term. I started removing emotion from the argument, and I started seeing. I wanted to see it through their eyes, and that is when I started appreciating who Aaron was, the superstar and the unbelievable rugby player that Aaron is. And as luck would have it, is not the one that gets yellow cards these days, but some young brown gentleman. Anyway, when Michael chooses to retire is none of our business really. If he can continue putting in the hours of training and time and sacrifice, and the good coach Tolbert chooses to pick him all the time, then who are we, man? Who are we to demand? I mean, George Scott, big George Scott is still playing rugby, and don't get me wrong, he's going to, put in a shift on that veterans game. He's going to play. He might be called for the national side. I don't know.
He had said that his time on the national team is done, but with the trust issues we now have, we are not going to believe anyone
until we see it.
Perhaps when you're like happening. 60, then
until we see it happen.
Sure
I mean, the good captain, fantastic Brian Odong, convinced me I'd retired from rugby. We even sent him away from Cobbs officially letters. I saw the man in the camp of the national team.
It is very hard to do even a send-off game for these players because you're not really sure.
But
boredom can really check in, and the guy is like, this retirement thing is not for me.
But I think we should change it. You do your time, and then you leave. That's why I want Aredo Joseph to retire. I want Aredo Joseph to retire when we still sing his name, and when he decides to retire. That season he's playing last, I tweeted it, I'm saying it here again. I'm going to train hard and get onto that Cubs team just to play in honor, even if it's a minute every game, in honor of what Red has done. That said, I think when Michael decides to retire, he will retire. But for now, he still puts in a shift. The first games in week 1, he was good, but not exceptional. Then the other games came, he was a colossus. So you get, man, Michael is Michael. He has done so much. He has put his body on the line. He's very experienced. So when he chooses to retire or not, and if he has changed his mind, it's also okay. Yeah.
There is no crime by the way changing your mind.
Okay.
If I'm reading the original tweet, it was Nange Ndimuntu Nkowa. Congratulations, my guy Ian Munyani. I believe in your abilities to lead this team to many championships. You're the right man for the job, and I am sure Uganda is in safe hands. Thanks to everyone who has supported me during my time as captain and a player. How did you interpret this?
He's leaving the team.
When I saw that tweet, to me it wasn't conclusive. But then at the end he said, and as a player.
Yes.
So that's why
that
I was
the
like,
part
he's retiring.
That really caught me. Like, as a player.
I was just confused. But from the overall view of the tweet, to me, I feel like he wasn't retiring. Yeah.
Okay.
But they should give us a chance to do testimonials for their games. We even talk to if legends, if say BOD says that this is a testimonial for BOD, we convince Danny that every single coin collected at the gate goes to BOD for whatever he wants to use. As in, he can choose to use it for charity, he can choose whatever, but our players should give us a chance to send them off. Because Alex, we clapped for Alex, did everything. Alex retired, he retired for good. But we need to have a testimonial for Alex, man.
I think it's a club initiative also.
Yes.
Clubs need to really take these situations and try to really honor their players, because I don't know why there hasn't been one for. There was something at the beginning of the season at Kings Park, but that real one at home at Chadondo, with perhaps a guard of honor, fans in the standing ovation, or even it could be a select game. I believe that would be a better thing. Things like that.
Because like Marvin just retired to oblivion like that.
And that's the sad bit about many of our players, how they just disappear into the sunset. You never know what really happens.
Yeah, so
and yet
I think that should change.
Players who look up to them.
Maybe we wait for Eagles to make the change.
But anyway, for those that don't know, on such a chilly day, we are at the Fred and Winnie B&B. Despite the fact that where we are is chilly, The rooms themselves are cozy. Why are they cozy? Because they are self-contained and they are 10 in number, private bedrooms consisting of 2 deluxe doubles, 3 standard doubles, 1 deluxe twin, and 2 standard twin bedrooms. There's a fully equipped kitchen for all your meals and all the needs that you could possibly have in regards to the kitchen. Power backup system, Wi-Fi, laundry. There's also a chef in case you do not want to cook for yourself and you want to be on that soft life. A sumptuous buffet breakfast with a choice of selected tropical fruits and juice. Pick up and drop off to and from Entebbe International Airport, as well as local transportation for getting around can be arranged if booked in advance. For bookings, call 0778 933 559. Kabalega was laughing because he has watched the podcast so much.
He knows the ad.
I know the ad of it.
There is a small video we did at Legends with this guy that keeps selling, that has jerseys for sale. I forget his name.
Kamanzi.
Kamanzi was reciting the ad. I think it was with Dungu at the time, and Dungu was telling him to recite the ad. The man was just really, really putting it out there. I think I'll share it with Joel. Joel add it to the podcast just for people to see. But anyway, aside from Michael and his choices, we are happy that he's still playing. We are happy that he's perhaps now in the leadership group that is going to be supporting and ushering Ian Munyani onto his campaign as captain. Really walk us through, what was your mindset at the time when you decided that, you know what, Eagles is the direction I want to go in, and not be like the rest of your fellow classmates that chose to want to strive for a number with Pirates, and perhaps, who knows, I mean, you could right now be on a team that is on the course to win the league.
Rugby World Cup was in 2019.
Yes.
I was in Essex in 2019. And World Cup happened when we were in school. A few weeks, I think, before UNEB. And of course, you know, watching Rugby World Cup in high school, you have to squeeze at the front and all those things. And I think I was watching the semi-final, New Zealand-England. And I was a New Zealand supporter, and sadly we lost. But just to see the facilities and organization throughout World Cup just got my attention, but it just kept in my mind and I didn't tap into it. And the day I finished S6, actually, a certain gentleman called Arthur Company approached me and said, I have this idea and I want to execute it. How can I execute it? And I said, well, I've just finished S6. There's nothing I can tell you right now. I said I would get back to him. And obviously at that point, my mind was stuck on Pirates. I'm going to play in Pirates. I'm going to train with Pirates. Basically, my mind was only on Pirates. And when I remembered what I'd been thinking about, I'm like, let me just give in my input. And I would have contributed to rugby. Like, let me just give him the information. He will know how to execute it. But Arthur's vision was, I felt like he knew what he was doing. The conversion rate of high school rugby players into the main league is very low in Uganda, extremely low. And Arthur said, this is my main goal. I want to convert players from high school. They have nothing to do. They should come and be playing. They should still continue playing rugby. And when he explained the whole concept to me, I was in for it, but it took a while for me to accept that, okay, I'm going to now fully put my energy into this Eagles thing and leave the whole Pirates thing alone. Yeah, but it was a very hard decision, that one I can't deny. Even up to now, I still watch Pirates games. I think I shout the most at Pirates games. But it was better for rugby as a whole. It just wasn't me, Adam, let me go start Eagles, what? No. The person explained the vision to me, and I joined the project. Actually, Edmond and Arthur were already, they were somewhere within the project, and they said, come on board, but it hadn't yet got out to the public. And then we started our journey, and then COVID happened. But it's one of the best decisions I've made. That one I can't deny. It has taught me a lot, and I hope for the best. I really can't wait for Eagles Pirates. Yeah, but it's definitely one of the best decisions. That one I can't deny. Even some of my actually a lot of Budo players are still in Pirates. Gongodio, Ziwa, um, Gongodio learned rugby in S5 when we were playing rugby in Budo. So basically, of course, it hurt. It really hurt me, and sometimes it hurts. You can see Ziwa. Ziwa is shining right now. I was on that same team with Ziwa.
You're his captain.
Thank you. Like I was Ziwa's captain, but Ziwa is the man shining on pitch, and I definitely still have the urge to play. Though I haven't played this year because of obviously finishing uni and management. Actually, I respect all club presidents. Trust me. You know when people are really blowing administrators of rugby on Twitter, I can't even judge them because I know what they are going through. You have to remember that most of them have other lives apart from rugby. So you're at work, but you have to go for a meeting with this sponsor. You have to push here. A player has this issue, so it's really hectic. That's the honest truth. And a shout out to all club administrators. I really know what you go through. Yeah, but I still have a lot to learn because I'm young. I'm very very young. I can tell it obviously when I'm talking to other club administrators. You can tell I still have a lot of exposure, but I would also want to enforce my ideas at some time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why, maybe to ask, why the name Eagles? I mean, you're
We fly
Budonian.
high. We're going to be at the top only.
You're a Budonian.
I
would
see
have
the
called them-
conspiracy you're trying to
Of course,
pass.
it's a big conspiracy. You couldn't get to Smack, so you chose to steal its name. Okay, not steal. Bam. Well done so far. Well done.
Thank you.
So how did it go about the whole dynamics of finding a pitch, being able to convince players to get into the system, being able to even just get the sponsor? Because it's not easy. It's not easy. Running a club on a daily basis is not easy. But let alone getting the pitch where you call your home, and then also try to find your identity within a sport that many say is being get kept. I don't know if that is how I should say it. And
Get
also, get cap, as the younger people say,
Edgar.
and also just convincing players, because also recruiting players is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the time I finished S6, Arthur had already found a pitch that he said this would be the right pitch for us. And when I was in school, Arthur had already been looking. So by the time I arrived, he said, I think this is the best place. And the information I'd given him is that the honest truth to me, I felt like Pirates had lost a lot of talent in their shift to Kings Park at the start because it was a little bit far for most students. And even me at the time, it was a little bit far. But if you're committed to rugby, that distance is nothing. But most people, you have to know that rugby is still growing. You have to give incentives for people to come to you. So when I came, Arthur had already found a location, and he had already started the work at the location because the Chitante pitch was it had a little bit of issues. So Arthur we had already started the work at that time. So when I came on board, what we're working on was the pitch, putting up the poles, planting grass. You know, when you lack exposure, some things like can shock you. Just planting grass, you can think, okay, that's like 300k. You give labor 100, but it was actually way above that. It was so expensive, and I remember Arthur just breaking down the cost to me, and I was like, there's no way like planting grass can just cost this. But it was actually so expensive, like something like pitch maintenance. Yeah, it really takes a lot now, especially now because we're in the rainy season. And I can assure you, at every pitch there's a football league. At Legends is Budo League, Smack League. At Chitante there's Ngo League. Like I feel like with football players they don't really care. Like they're not going to fall down as much. But with rugby players, you really have to take care of the pitch. So all those costs they're so high. Then with convincing players, I told you that Atherman is very sharp because when he approached us, when he approached me,
You know what? To cut you short, because we are going to have a specifically Eagles dedicated podcast.
Episode.
We're going to use this as just a snippet into the conversation that we are going to have. So those stay tuned. There is an Eagles conversation coming up, so we'll keep that
the
just
Central
there.
League champions,
Yeah.
by the way.
Okay, let's wait and see. The
I just
playoffs
wanted-
are around the corner. So Caesar, coming back to you. So what happened at Legends? You guys failed to get the bonus point, which sparked off a frenzy at Kings Park of a party. And if that was any indication to go by, if you guys by any chance lose the league on the final day, I have a feeling the people in Boyogere will party for like 2 weeks straight. I don't know if you'll be ready for that kind of heat. So what happened? It seems like Cobbs is in control of their fate, but seemingly making one mistake here or there. What happened?
Oh, I wouldn't want to call it a mistake. Don't forget, just because we are too efficient and prolific in making all those scores, doesn't mean that we are playing against nobodies. We play against very good rugby teams in the league. And last weekend was a showcase of that game was, for me, an amazing rugby game. The ref was on point. Gonzalo, shout out to Gonzalo, by the way. Gonzalo was on point. The TJs, of course, got the wrath of the fans, but they did their job the best as they could. But of course, no more human error. But the game in itself. There's a number 7. I keep forgetting his name. I don't know why. He's small. I know all of you.
Odoch Morgan.
Ivan Odoch.
Not Ivan.
I think it's called Morgan.
Is he Morgan?
Odoch,
Yeah,
yes.
small,
He's
best friends
kid
with
brother.
Cheki. He likes Cheki. Manya Cheki likes him. Sorry, he talks about him a lot. That kid, he was playing shirt number 7. I think it's called. I don't know. Whatever.
Is he Oketayot's brother?
No. Leave Morgan alone.
That's the one
And
that-
you are wrong. He's a small kid. I remember the name.
What about Seguya?
No, he's a northerner. Like a tiny kid. Anyway, you.
Yeah.
Shirt
We'll figure
7.
out the
Yeah.
name.
He's really thin.
He's really thin.
Yeah.
He was even playing in Hana. He was playing in Hana in school at your time. I'll remember his name. Oh, Innocent. No, I don't know. I don't remember. I've forgotten the name. That boy is a small player. He was
But
playing.
he goes through gaps.
Oh my God. Man of the match by far. He carried that ball. He scored, I think, 2 tries. And both that. I don't remember properly. But Buffaloes in itself, very patient rugby. Of course, our ghosts came back to bite us in some parts of the game where we get into the 22 and we fail to convert those games. But those guys put their body on the line. They played really well. Structured rugby. Man, Buffaloes played really, really, really well in that match. But of course, we played better. That's why we won the game. And people, of course, I feel like that party at Kings Park was really unwarranted. Bonus point or not, the game that determines everything is what if Impis beats Cobbs? What was the use of the bonus point? The bonus point right now is useless. Would have just been 1 point ahead of them. What is 1 point?
1 point is important.
How?
Especially when
Every
you're going
point is
into a
important.
weekend against Lodin Sekuye, who's back from injury.
That's my point. Like, win your games.
Take for instance, you lost a bonus point the last week as you did, and then you lose another one this week.
There's nothing. They will be ahead of us by 1 point.
Yes.
And
then for some reason
we come and beat them.
Somehow the mathematics comes
There's no
in
mathematics
there
here.
and
But
math
there's
is
no mathematics.
around.
Maybe the math I'm ignoring. The math I'm ignoring is the math of the third team. Maybe that, because I
Whose
want to
coach
believe
seems to have
whoever.
conceded defeat, but I don't know if it's mind games.
Who?
You know,
I saw that article
yeah, there was
somewhere.
an article. I don't know if it was by Narubare where they were saying
They
that
gave up on the championship.
Mohamed Athio had conceded.
Those ones are not in the championship, please. Let's not waste our time. Unless
Are
you want
you sure they're not?
100%. Okay, mathematically they are in the championship, but they only get into the championship if we draw.
Exactly.
There is no draw in that.
You want to tell me
It is
it is
impossible.
actually very possible you guys will even be so shocked
Anyway,
with the
I don't want to make. I don't. You know, I'm the king of bets. I bet bets here and they come to light. Let me tell you. Anyway, to finish up early, then I come to this point. Our team was well. We played really well. Even when we got some mishaps here, our leader got a yellow card because Danny Katerega ducked when they were going to finish him. The man ducked and they connected his head. Then a yellow card and bar all those issues, our team really played well. Shout out to Paulo yesterday, who man came out. For some reason now, every time that boy plays, he scores a try, and me, I'm excited. Of course, one Kakuru claims he coached Paul. He went to Namilango for 2 years. What did he coach for 2 years? Anyway, let's go back to what we're saying. So the game was it's very disrespectful for people to come and say we lost a bonus point. Buffaloes could have won that match. I need to tell you this.
Has any of the top three got a bonus point against Buffaloes?
Pirates.
They did, though?
They did.
They did. You're sure?
Yes.
No.
No.
Pirates got a bonus point.
They
At
did not.
Chadondo?
At Chadondo?
I
don't
doubt.
think they did.
I
Anyway,
doubt.
I stand
Because
corrected.
I watched the game.
I stand corrected.
At Kings Park, they must have.
Maybe Kings Park, yeah.
Of course, at Kings Park.
I stand
they did.
corrected, but that Buffalo's team, especially in the second half of the season, man, they've brought in their A game, and I want to shout out to them because it would be very unfair. They just met a superior team, a more superior team. If they were playing another, if like
What
Heathens,
is the word you want to use?
he would have played like Heathens in this with that kind of rugby they played. Senior elders of our
No, but,
team there.
Buffaloes didn't win against Rhinos.
Exactly.
That's the
There
funny
is
bit.
that.
That's the funny
That's
bit.
what played me.
Inconsistency.
Of Buffaloes, and I don't understand it. And maybe because the way you prepare to play against Cubs is not. It shouldn't be, but the way you prepare to play against Cubs, one can argue. I didn't watch that Rhinos game. One can argue the coach had rested their players for. I don't know what happened in that game. Honestly, I can't explain it. Big ups to Rhinos. It would be very unfair for us not to mention that they put in their work. But that Buffaloes team, with the way they played against us, I cannot fathom how they lost to Rhinos, considering what I've seen. So the weekend, for me, I beg to differ. The weekend wasn't about Cubs losing a bonus point. The weekend was about Cubs winning a very good match because there could have been a possibility of Buffaloes winning.
So Buffaloes has really had particularly good results over the last few weeks and also that saw it starting. Actually, the league saw it starting not such a good position, but they have propelled themselves to fourth, if I'm not mistaken, fifth or fourth around there. Do you think that because we have seen this cycle happen, we have seen Buffaloes build something, and then we have seen their bigger brothers come and take. Do you think it's time they maybe stood their ground, if it's even possible, and have Buffaloes as an actual competing rival team in the Chadondo setup with its own systems? Luckily now there is Bisons. I'm assuming Bisons is its second team. Do you think that they should object and do away with that hierarchical monotony of having Buffalo's players being taken to Heathens and then they just create something of their own?
I think Buffaloes should be way more competitive, because I'll give you an example. You see, with rugby players, if you don't have a goal that you're playing for, then you're just going to go and play normal rugby, nothing. But I feel like the way with Buffaloes, with the way they are playing, they have a goal. They have a goal they want to achieve, and I feel like next season, if they keep up the work they are putting in, Buffaloes next season is going to be it's going to be trouble for all teams. Yeah,
I want to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know the setup of Chadondo.
that's
Chadondo.
that's why I didn't
Sorry.
want to comment.
I
on
don't
it.
know the setup of Chadondo. I don't know whether it's if Heathens knocks at the door, you open your legs, or if it's a normal discussion of two different clubs. If it's a normal discussion of two different clubs, of we sit down and say, I want your player, the way Cubs would go to Pirates to get a player, or Cubs would go to like any club to transaction, an arm's length transaction. Because if it is, I don't see a Buffaloes player crossing to Heathens. Why? Because I do not know their contracts, but you cannot convince me that Platinum Credit gives Heathens more money than Toyota gives Buffaloes. I don't know. I really don't know. But my point is this: I always felt like Heathens is Heathens. They're the biggest club in the land. I think most successful, if I'm not mistaken. Everyone would want to associate themselves with Heathens. But now, if you are a young rugby player who has watched this season, is it so much attractive for you to go to Heathens or to go to Buffaloes? Because their kit looks better, first and foremost. Their kit looks better. They look more inclusive. They'll have more Nago boys and the elite in the rugby. I don't know what that means in rugby circles, but they look more inclusive. They look younger because Man Heathens are a very aging team. So if you're a player, and Buffaloes is no longer that team they beat around, about. Man, me, I was impressed last weekend, to be honest. I was impressed by that Buffaloes team. And I hope they don't lose. I hope they don't what?
Lose the fire.
Lose their players. Because even Kasoto, who is kicks of a dying horse, to be honest, played really well. Though I want to mention something. I would want to watch Liam Walker play in one of the top 3 teams. I want to believe.
Why do you want him to play in one of the top 3 teams? Why can't he shine where he is?
He is already shining. That's why I want him to play there. Let me tell you why. Because I feel like, and this not disrespect to the Buffaloes players, I feel like sometimes Liam's brain is brought back down because the people with which he's playing don't allow him to express themselves. Now, Ivan is a prolific number 10. But look where Ivan played rugby from. Ivan left SMARC, one of the best rugby playing schools. Went to Hana, found them in a situation where they were in the ascendancy to become the best rugby playing school at that time. He left Hana and went to Namilyango.
The best
The most successful rugby playing school. Most successful rugby playing school.
Yeah.
And I mean, he met a bunch of kids who are already with their growth and fumbling hardness, brought flair to them. My God, they became. Ivan has never played for a team that, I don't want to use the term to be unfair to Buffaloes, played with a team lesser than his brain. Then he goes to Pirates. Bunch of kids got from Namilyango SMARC everywhere. Bunch of kids with a rugby brain who run like him. Imagine Liam was afforded such a plethora of rugby brains. I'm not saying Buffalo's guys are not sharp, but there are some people we know. You will not expect a lock to. I mean, there are some people have rugby brains. There are some people who don't. I believe Buffalo's a brute force team and a bunch of small people with brains, and most teams are like that. I just feel like the quality of brains in the top echelon of rugby, the top 3, I would want to see Liam in that team, but sadly the team is the father's, so he can't leave. But I would want to see Liam, for example, in Cubs. I would want to see Liam play.
You're just trying to recruit.
No, I don't want. We can't buy Liam or Pirates for that matter. Setting in those running loose forwards. My God.
But you mentioned earlier the point of a young player. Which team would he go to? The honest truth, if he's a high school player, his mind is focused on Cobs, Pirates, Heathens. That's the honest truth. But if you have a young player who has actually been exposed to the games, they would know that Buffaloes would be a good side to go to. And for the young players, it's because of lack of exposure.
Yeah.
When the league is going on, they're in school, and that's the honest truth.
Can I ask a funny question?
Yeah.
And I want you to answer. In these schools, remove the people who grew up around actually quarters or Naguru and from the schools, there's not even the great schools, the rugby playing schools. Name for me 2 kids in your year, or even a year below you, or even 2 years below you, who left school and went to Heathens. 2. Leave the Hana boys who have come from the Chadondo setup and gone to Hana or Kololo. Leave those ones. I want a boy who came from his home in Masaka, worked hard in high school, got to learn rugby, like the majority of schools rugby is, and went to Heathens. Just 1 or 2.
In my year,
Even a year below you, or 3, even 4. I can even use hours.
Are you trying to say that they do not attract youngsters?
No one has ever wanted to play for Heathens from high school.
But they always have a squad.
Because
With
they are
youngsters.
unbelievable.
Youngsters.
They are unbelievable rugby playing organization. Most of their players have come from tag rugby. Most of them. And I'm telling you this. That one no one will ever beat. Not Kings Park, not Legends, nothing. Heathens literally germinates its players from tag to the top. I mean, no team in the country does that. It's unbelievable. They've been able to maintain the highest level of rugby without using schools league players. We who whine about schools league, we are just whining because it fits to our clubs. Heathens won't even bother because their players are the ones who complain about that they're overaged, they play club and school. Nonsense. I always find that nonsense. But one, it's a shout out to Heathens because their kind of players come. I think the last school's player was Michael. But they come, and even then I'm not sure about Michael, where he started from. Him. Chances are high he started from the lower leagues of, I don't know so much. My point is this, Heathens needs to be celebrated for growing rugby, but there are very few people from the elite schools, as they call themselves, the top 8, that lives going. In my 6 years, there were only 2 players that left SMAC to go to Heathens. Kasozi Stephen and Ochich. 2 players. And even them, where Kasozi played more rugby for Impis than he did for Heathens. Anyway, sorry for bringing all this around.
But in the same light or in the same breath, you can also put it out there as echoed by Okot Emmanuel last week, saying that Heathens and Cobs have failed to attract a younger demographic of fans. Do you agree with that, Caesar? You who's affiliated directly with your club, do you guys particularly have now a record of your younger fans? Is it true, or is it majorly for the elite or the snobbish, as they like to call you guys?
Younger fans?
Do you think you're doing enough to attract?
No, we are not, and this is why. But it's changing. This is why. The 2 teams with the biggest young fans, and I know you can name them off your head, the 2 teams with the biggest young fan base in the league. 2. Pirates and Impis.
Yes.
Do you know why?
Why?
They have the biggest presence on social media. It's as simple as that. The tool that we use, that these clubs have used to gather funds, they've maximized. Now, these other top clubs, the so-called snobbish clubs, have come late, but they're getting there. You get. Now, Cob's presence is also becoming felt. Heathens, people are saying they were getting Twitter accounts last week, but Heathens is also getting there. You find a person like Desire, for example, Desire Derekford Mugumisa, who is the NBS person. He came into rugby through NBS, I don't know whether it was before or after.
He was there before.
He was. But my point is this: a person like Desire, you know how we used to say Heathens is a local establishment, Chadono is a local establishment, but Desire has no local person. And if you go to Chadono now, the majority of local people, the so-called local people in our minds, are no longer there. Because one, they've opened their minds. You learn. If Pirates and Impis beat us to the game and they have gotten their funds, but you see these funds, you can gather the funds because you are present. I mean, guys used a local TV to, those old stereo TVs to launch their kit. That was special. You get. So they use all their things to gather funds. But what keeps funds in your team is rugby. So if you gather as many funds as you can, and then you still playing relegation rugby. That's why when fans leave campus, they won't come back to Impis to watch your games, because they were there because of the vibe you had. But then what maintains them at that vibe is rugby. And that's why Pirates keeps holding on to its fans, because they play good rugby. So we are learning. It took us a long time. But fun fact, Cobs was the first team to have a social media handle. Fun fact.
No, but I feel like all clubs are still behind when it comes to attracting fans. Because I'll give you an example. There's something that really annoys me. There's I feel like Ngo League, Budo League, Smack League, they have the ability to pull in so many people, but these are all rugby playing schools. Like the conversion rate to just even being rugby fans after high school is still so low. Like, so I still feel like all clubs, inclusive of mine, were all still behind in that aspect. Yeah.
How is Eagles really positioning itself to also get funds, especially with everything going right? You will be in the Super 10 or whatever version of the competition will be at the time. How are you guys positioning yourselves to also be relevant in that place? And also maybe a part B of that question, do you, for like people of your age and maybe let me say your circles, what really attracts people to rugby? Is it the victories, the results as he says, or is it the vibe?
Okay, so for part A, how is Eagles attracting fans? As I said, Eagles is mainly a team of youth. If you look at our XCOM, we're all young. Actually, in my XCOM, there's only one person who has finished uni, and I think that's Edmond, the director of rugby and the coach. That's the only person, but all of us were all youth. So the fact that we're all youth, if I'm in Eagles, I'm the president of Eagles, my friends, I automatically attract them to Eagles. And that's every other XCOM member, and that's every other player. So there you're already bringing in new fans from, let me say from my year, I'm already bringing in fans to Eagles and not necessarily maybe to Pirates. But of course, maybe you may now let me give you an example. There's me and Ziwa. Ziwa is in Pirates. I've started Eagles. So, yeah, some go this side, some go this side. But still, you want to bring more people into rugby. And then for what attracts people to rugby, I think I'll talk for the big league, because really in the championship where we have been there, there's really a lack of fans attendance. So for the big league, I think it's the vibe, and then the social media during the week.
Yeah.
It's literally everywhere. The banter, literally everything. So people start coming in because of what they have seen. And also I feel like those in charge of the league should do what they did at the first game. The activation at Pirates Cobs. I mean, I think that's the craziest rugby party I've ever attended. If it was more consistent, you'd be bringing in a lot of fans. Like, just even I'm comparing rugby to the Sunday leagues. In Budo League, Smack League, you bring an artist, it's full. At the Fun Park, they bought an artist, it was full. So yeah, I feel like they should do more activations to bring in more fans. And more fans, to me, means more funds, because you're bringing in people who come from different organizations who can put in a shift for rugby. Yeah.
And maybe to talk about that, there's how do we avoid, because Eagles ascendancy might be the downgrade of some clubs. You get my point?
Yeah.
Like, it's like you said, it's a team of youth. It's really a team of youth. So what is to stop? Because now look at it this way: Eagles is trains at Chitante. There's no difference between Impis and Chitante. Really no difference. It's short distance. What's to stop kids from? Because I can tell you for sure, kids at Smack talk to me and they say, "How is this Eagles setup?" And I'm like, "Eagles is a very good setup." Why are they asking me? One or two of their colleagues play at Eagles. Most of them train at Eagles. We were using in holidays. We were using the MP's grounds to train my school team on holidays, so that we don't have to do with what's to stop me from going to Kabalega and telling, man, can my boys train from here? I mean, we can even use an emissary of Bogele. My worry, how do we do it that when Eagles ascends, instead of taking away funds from Impis, maybe Eagles becomes the Moobs team, the way Impis is the Makere team. Like, we get more funds into the sport than taking the already established ones from the other teams who see the teams.
I would also have to object you there because the way I see Eagles as Adam and sport as general, sport is big business. It's really big business. Eagles is big business. It may not be everywhere in the papers now, but as in, like, Eagles is big business. So when Eagles comes up, it brings more competition for all the other clubs.
Yes.
That means all the other clubs have to up their game.
Yes.
It's just not Eagles benefiting. Rhinos should up their game. Pirates should up their game. Like, how are all these clubs going to maintain their funds?
Yes. And
So
their
that
funds
means
not
that
going.
that means the clubs have to put in more money.
Yeah.
Because that's
Which
how
is
they are
ripple
going to
effect.
maintain.
Yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, but it's definitely something that teams need to ponder about. That not only are you trying to improve on pitch, but how are you also improving as a brand socially? And I think it's a conversation that needs to be had even in general, like branding and publicity of clubs, of sport in Uganda, of rugby as a discipline. How is that being approached? But that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, I want us to also have a glimpse at the relegation side of the table. Um, Walukuba is currently in seventh, if I'm eighth, if I'm not
Eighth.
mistaken. Yeah, eighth, and they seem to be safe. Yeah, they are safe from relegation. But then the particular interest is with Rhinos, who stand at 18 points, and Rams at the bottom in 10th, who have 9 points. However, when it goes to points difference, Rams have a higher points difference, which, when we go back to Ugandan mathematics, means that 2 bonus point wins for the Rams and no points gathered for Rhinos could see a miraculous tenure of them saving themselves from being relegated. However, anything short of that will see the team that I think came into the league in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, go back to the second division, perhaps at the expense of the Eagles. What do you guys have to say about that? What are Ramsey's chances of really saving themselves? Rhinos having gotten a vital win against an informed Buffaloes that at least gave them some breathing space, but not enough space for them to really be comfortable.
I'm actually sad for Rams because when Eagles was starting, we had a couple of friendlies with Rams too. So it's a little bit sad for me, but I don't see Rhinos being relegated. That's my honest view. I see Rams coming down. Sadly,
Do you plan on poaching players from Rams if they go down?
we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah,
There are some
because
things that
actually
can't
there's
be
always that
said here.
strategy of a team that's being promoted. Definitely, when you're going into the big league, you have to rebuff. You have to have a conversation here and there with some players who might not want to go back into relegation or into the second division. and see how to strengthen your teams. But anyway, maybe that's a strategy for another day.
However, you also have to take into consideration the fact that I'm only talking for Eagles. We have had a group of players since we started who have been consistent with us. Last year we ended joint third in the Central League last year. Though on the last match day, Box was first and Eagles was second, and Box was our last game. And I can't forget that game ended 33-15. We lost, and I think we were all shattered because also last year there was that confusion. Yeah. And I even remember Chambogo had fans at Legends. So you could tell it was so much pressure. So last year, I think the group of players realized the goal they have to achieve. They felt the pain last year. So now the fact that they have achieved that goal, you have to remember that these players have been working non-stop with Eagles. Yes, we may have to add some players. We'll see how that goes, but you have to take into consideration there are guys who are already fit this side and know how to handle the things. For example, like the coaching style, Edmond is very efficient. I mean, there's no time for slacking. If you feel like you're assured on the starting team, it may be your week on the bench. You get so that side, on the Eagles side, you have to put in the work. So in case anyone wants to come to Eagles, you still have to put in a lot of work. Yeah.
Okay. Caesar, as you maybe just give us your thoughts about the relegation, just keep in mind both the relegated teams are traveling away from home this coming game week, this weekend, which is the build up to the final weekend next week. But the Rhinos will be traveling to Ginger to face Hippos, and then the Rams will be going to Chadondo to face Buffaloes.
Okay. Honest truth, at the beginning of the season, when I heard what was happening to Rams and its key players, I figured that they were the team that was going to get relegated, because to recover, even a team like Cobs or Heathens, if it loses very many key players, recovering is a bit hard. I'd honestly don't. It will be a miracle if Rams survive, because Rams needed to beat Rhinos. They didn't. Rhinos got a freakish win against Buffaloes. If Buffaloes play the way they played against Cobs, I do not see in heavens how Rams is going to be what? Is going to be to beat Buffaloes. So,
but you still can't tell.
I still can't tell.
Because of the Rhinos Buffaloes game.
That's what I'm trying to. I still can't tell, but we're all on speculation. Everything remaining constant, I think Rams is going down. I feel like Rams is going down, and it would be sad, but well, it's a jungle. You eat or be eaten. So, well.
But what happens to the whole Rams setup? Keep in mind, Rams has Rams too. It has two ladies teams that it oversees as well. Their coach also mentors at Makerere College School. So doesn't that affect that entire ecosystem in the game?
I don't think so, and this is why. I was under Imp's management when the legendary Andrew Orwell made the decision to play Super 6 teams after we had done well in the league, and then we fought it, and then he wakes up, and for some reason he said the seeded 8 in Uganda Cup, the top 8 in Uganda Cup should make up the Super 8. He disregarded the old, how the season ended, such rubbish. We were sent back to championship, and I was worried because I had a bunch of superstar players, or players that have earned their stripes. I'll talk about Chodu, talk about Keith, Ochega, Adi, Ernest, Kasule. I can name very many players, and I always thought it was going to disappoint the players, but then they stuck together. I believe Lumu has absolute control of Coach Lumu has absolute control of his club, and I believe they'll stick together, and I believe they'll come back. because they have a good enough team to beat anyone in championship. It's just that they got the shock of and let me tell you, a team that has an underside and two women's teams, clearly there's something good happening there. And I don't think it's the good organization is happening because they're in Super 10. I believe it will survive. I actually believe if they go down, it will be very unfair because they've really organized themselves really well. But if they go down, they will come back soon. And maybe to finish on that relegation battle, I really pray, not disrespect to Warriors. Warriors, let the best team win the championship team. But I would love to see the Eagles play in the league. Why? Because their story is so amazing. We've just been told now they have a bunch of EXCOM members that are in campus. This is a team being run by campusers, and it's damn organized. They are uniform. They come with the same kit. You have a schools league, a school kid, Bogere, begging his parents to come and pick him so that he comes and plays a championship match. There's something happening at Eagles that I would want to know or to study more. And this is not because Kabalega is here. He knows I've always told him this. Yeah. There's something happening in Eagles that deserves to be rewarded. I mean, it deserves to be rewarded. I'm actually in shock right now to understand that their EXCOM is being run by campuses. Honestly, how you've been in rugby management.
Yeah.
Rugby management is one of the hardest thing to do. Yeah. I'm telling you, it is one of the hardest thing to do. But there's a bunch of kids that lost and they were not happy, and they've galvanized themselves and they've come up with a very good coach. And man, it's really a success story that I would want to reach the epitome. I wish them luck. I wish every team luck. Let the best team win. But to be honest, I would love to see Eagles back in the playing in the league. Thank you.
Okay. It will be interesting to see. And as we wrap up, gentlemen, I want to ask each of you this question. What's the one thing, they say in rugby circles and on the online platforms, they say okuyisa awe vivyo. So what's that one thing you'd like to maybe touch on or briefly talk about here, positive or negative, from rugby this year? I'll start with you. I don't know if you're ready. If not, whoever is ready can start.
This year, I would say there's been more competition in the league. Buffaloes is stronger. Impis is stronger. It's not assured that you're going to get a bonus point for the top three. That means rugby is improving. High school rugby was amazing this year. The final really brought back a lot of memories. That's the honest truth. The funding is getting better in rugby. The attention to rugby. You can see the shift sevens has put into rugby. There is a lot of growth that can happen in rugby. But as I've also been told, this has been said throughout the years. Yeah. So it's up to the people in management and also us as fans to ensure that the growth of rugby continues, because it's just not Tonchu, it's just not the club chairman. Everyone has to play a role in making sure rugby continues growing. And I wish, anyway, when I come back for another episode of the podcast and you ask me the same question, I'll also say when Eagles has been promoted and Pirates winning the league. Actually, when both those two happen, I think I'm done for the year with rugby. Yeah.
Well, positive. I'm happy with the performance of the sevens team. I was a bit worried when they brought in this new crop of players that our performance will go a bit low, but you clearly see, yes, it might not be the heights we reached with the Byrons and the Piuses and Phillips, and people seem to forget that Philip didn't play this last tournament, but we're still very hopeful. I think that's a given. My best new player of the tournament is that Rhinos kid.
Alan Olango.
Oh my lord. Anyway, I've always liked that guy from watching him train at Rhinos. I think he's a player for the future. The positives is, yes, our sevens team and how Tolbert is trying to usher in the new crop of players, and then the leadership, as you see, is changing. And then what Kabalega has hit on, the in closer relationship that the administration, that Toncho, which for me is his biggest achievement in his first tenure, the closer relationship we have with central government and NCS, and more money being, yes, I mean, it has started with sevens, and we hope it will grow into even these are the women, the 15s, like, and also the clubs. So I hope that closer relationship with government and funding from government is a big, big positive. The negative, I have two negatives. We've had a lot of quarrels. First, we have an altercation with Alex and Gab, and then the press. The other time, it's the refs. The other time is the fans. Like, we've had so many things that are damaging rugby.
The image of
the
rugby.
image of rugby, and I feel like we could have handled it better. And I hope it doesn't have to be handled in a weird way again. But also special to mention, something small. I know the press does a lot. We are the press, but the press does a lot. But this entitlement that the press has sometimes, where because they think they're doing us a favor, then we should dance to their tune. I hope it can stop one day. I hope I'm not putting Fat Cats in any problem by saying this, but this, and I'm using the Gap situation. Everyone seemed to have wanted to crucify the rugby and not look at the press. And for some reason, the press, behind the press freedom thing, they want a lot that they do that is inappropriate to be let go lightly. I think that should change. But two, this is a shout out, and maybe my parting shot. It's a shout out to all clubs and their members. We over depend on sponsorship. Whereas, if I'm going to use Pirates, for example, if all Pirates fans paid 200k to Pirates in a season, if each and if those ones that are still with parents beg your parents, instead of buying those nice shoes or that nice Apple Watch, give that 200 to the club that you love, the club that entertains you every day. If all of us fans paid membership of 200k, this is a rough, and Edens doesn't have the Chester and Manchester. Everyone is together, and each one, I believe, each fan, each team has a minimum of 300 fans. 300 fans. If each one paid 200k, that's 60 million, right? Is that correct math?
It's not correct math, but it.
You get 6 million, yeah. Whatever. If we brought in, it's 60 million.
Is it?
Yes, it
is.
Are
you sure?
Yeah, but continue.
Okay.
If all fans paid their membership, these sponsorship that we keep craving for would only be an added advantage. So this is a shout out. This is something I don't like. We fans like shouting at players and making noise for the club, but then we don't do our part. Let's do our part. Let's pay our tithe to the club. Let's pay that damn membership, and then we demand performance and accountability for the club. But let's not keep shouting at players and administrators when we don't do our job to pay their allowances, but to pay their the membership fee. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're actually right. It's 60 mil. But anyway, that makes sense as well. And I think I will just say on my end, really, it's just I'm happy to see so many new fans come into the game. It's a ray of hope as we are moving into the right direction, and hopefully it can be able to increase with so many of the stakeholders participating on top of the core, who are the clubs and the players as well. But yeah, it's a conversation that can go on, and we look forward to a great weekend. And yet again, there's a lot that's going to happen over the weekend as we go into the penultimate round, and then we will finally go into the final round, which will be having a blockbuster And we hope by that time it will be a title decider. We still believe 3 teams are still in the mix.
Nah.
People like to rule out the Heathens, but with 3 points behind, everything is still possible. So just keep it with the Fat Cats. We're going to be bringing you all the build up to that. We're going to be just sharing with you from both ends of the table, whether it is at the top, whether it is at the bottom, what is happening. It's dark, we know, and we'll just have to run off for our evening meal, as we always say at the Fred and Winnie B&B. Thank you for being a part of this podcast, and see you next time. Cheers.